There comes a moment in every person's life when the noise around them gets so loud, so overwhelming that they can't hear their own thoughts anymore. And maybe that's where you are right now, surrounded by pressure, surrounded by expectations, surrounded by problems that feel bigger than your strength. But let me tell you something powerful. The human mind is a battlefield, and the side that wins is not the loudest, not the strongest, not the fastest. It's the side you feed. Every day you're feeding something. Doubt, fear, excuses, hesitation, or you're feeding discipline, courage, clarity, and purpose. And the mind you feed becomes the mind you live with. That's why this moment matters, because right now as you listen, you're not just hearing words. You're stepping into a psychological shift that can change everything about the way you move, think, and fight for your life. People don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they've been conditioned to think small, think scared, think helpless. They have been programmed to survive, not to build, to react, not to rise, to repeat the same cycles even when those cycles are killing their confidence and crushing their potential. But you're here because something inside you refuses to stay the same. Something inside you is tired of being quiet, tired of being overlooked, tired of being the version of yourself that feels trapped and average. And the truth is, there is a version of you that is sharper, stronger, hungrier, more focused, and more powerful than anything you've ever met. But you can't access that version until you understand the psychology that's been running your life in the background. This is where everything changes. Because once you understand how your mind works, how your fear speaks, how your discipline wakes up, how your excuses hide, how your potential whispers, you stop living life on autopilot. You stop giving power to things that drain you. You stop letting your past define your present. And instead, you start choosing your thoughts the same way a warrior chooses his weapons, with intention, precision, and purpose. Most people never reach their greatness because they never learn how to control the conversation happening inside their own head. They listen to the doubt. They believe the fear. They surrender to the pressure, but not you. Not today. Today you take back the wheel. Today you silence every voice that ever told you to settle. Today you push past every belief that once made you hesitate. Because the mind you build here, right here in this moment, will decide whether your future rises or collapses. So sit with this energy. Feel it. Because what you are about to step into is not just motivation, it is psychological transformation. And if you stay until the final second, if you let every word hit you where it needs to, you will walk away with a mind that is no longer controlled by weakness, but powered by purpose. When you learn to shift your mind from staring at the problem to searching for the solution, everything in your life begins to move differently, because most people never realize that the problem isn't the barrier, their perspective is. A problem is just an event, a situation, a moment in time, but the meaning you attach to it becomes the thing that weighs you down or pushes you forward. When you focus on problems, you magnify them. You give them color, shape, size, texture. You give them power. But when you focus on solutions, you take that power back. You stop feeding the fear and start feeding the possibility. And this shift, this mental movement, is what separates people who stay stuck from people who climb out of anything life throws at them. It's not that successful people don't face problems. They face more problems than anyone else. It's that they've trained their minds to respond differently. They don't fall in love with explaining what went wrong, who hurt them, what didn't work, or why the situation is unfair. They fall in love with the hunt, the search for the next move, the angle, the adjustment, the opportunity hidden inside the chaos. Most people, when something hard hits them, immediately go into emotional survival mode. They freeze, complain, panic, blame, shut down, or overreact. They think the problem is the end, the wall, the full stop. But a solution-focused mind sees the same moment and reads it differently. A solution-focused mind sees a beginning, not an end. It sees information, not intimidation. It sees direction, not destruction. The difference is not the situation. The difference is the mental training. When your mind is conditioned to seek solutions, You don't crumble under pressure because you have already accepted that every challenge is simply a puzzle waiting for your creativity, your discipline, your resilience, and your intelligence to rearrange the pieces. You realize the situation is not happening to you, it's happening for you. And your job is to respond like someone who wants to win. And here's the truth. Problems are loud. They scream in your face. They demand attention. They want to trigger your emotions, your fears, your insecurities. Solutions, on the other hand, whisper. They hide behind patience, behind clarity, behind effort, behind focus. You only hear them when you calm your spirit, quiet your fear, silence your excuses, and open your mind to what's possible instead of fixating on what's painful. That's why so many people never find solutions. They're too busy reacting to the noise of the problem to hear the guidance that comes with the answer. When you teach yourself to respond instead of react, you unlock a different level of power. You stop giving your energy away to the wrong things. You stop entertaining thoughts that aren't helping you. You stop replaying the negative. Instead, you start asking the questions that matter. What can I do right now? What's in my control? What is the next best move? What lesson is life trying to give me here? What action can I take today that moves me forward? Shifting from problem thinking to solution thinking is not about pretending the problem doesn't exist or lying to yourself that everything is fine. It's about refusing to stay trapped in the emotional quicksand of the situation. It's about acknowledging the reality, but choosing not to drown in it. It's about focusing on what you can build instead of what broke. It's about understanding that energy is limited, and whatever direction you send it determines what grows in your life. If you feed the problem grows. If you feed the solution grows. If you feed excuses, excuses take over your life. If you feed effort, effort transforms your life. It's simple but not easy, and that's why most people never change. The moment you start operating like a solution-driven individual, you become dangerous. You become a threat to your old habits, a threat to your excuses, a threat to your limitations, a threat to the version of you that used to surrender. You no longer wait for someone to save you. You become your own answer. You become your own strategy. You become your own rescue. People begin to notice the difference because while they are still talking about the problem, you're already halfway through fixing it. While they're complaining, you're adjusting. While they're overwhelmed, you're executing. While they're focused on why life is unfair, you're focused on how you're going to dominate the situation anyway. And eventually, over time, something powerful happens. You start to trust yourself. You start to believe in your own ability to figure things out. You stop fearing obstacles because you proved over and over that you can convert them into opportunities. You stop feeling helpless because you realize that no matter what happens, you always have a move. You always have a choice. You always have a path. Problems don't shrink. You outgrow them. You surpass them. You become the kind of person who doesn't just survive challenges. You absorb them, learn from them, and transform them into fuel. When you adopt a mindset that focuses on solutions, you give yourself permission to rise above everything that once held you down. You become proactive instead of reactive. You become intentional instead of emotional. You become unstoppable instead of uncertain. That's the power of this shift. It's not just a mental trick. It's a new identity, a new way of thinking, a new way of walking through the world. And once you master it, your life begins to move in ways you never imagined possible. Most people never escape their problems because they never escape their own mindset. They keep replaying the same story, the same frustration, the same fear, the same disappointment until those thoughts become a cage they can't see beyond. To shift from focusing on problems to focusing on solutions, you have to retrain your entire mental operating system because your mind has been conditioned for years to scan for danger, mistakes, threats, and negativity. It's a survival instinct, but survival and progress are not the same thing. Survival keeps you alive. Progress makes you grow. Survival keeps you cautious. Progress makes you courageous. Survival makes you freeze. Progress makes you move. And when you learn to train your mind to automatically search for solutions instead of obsessing over the obstacles, you change the trajectory of your life. This shift doesn't happen by accident. It happens by repetition, discipline, and conscious awareness. You start by becoming brutally aware of the thoughts that run through your mind when challenges appear. Most people don't even realize how fast their minds spiral into negativity. Something goes wrong and instantly the thoughts flood in. Why me? Why now? This always happens. I can't handle this. This is too much. I knew it wouldn't work. These thoughts show up before you even consciously process the situation. They are automatic. They are habitual. They are rehearsed. And anything rehearsed becomes reality. Training your mind to focus on solutions means interrupting that automatic spiral and replacing it with a new intentional pattern of thinking. You don't let your mind race wherever it wants. You direct it like a coach directing a player. You grab your thoughts by the collar and pull them into the direction you want. This isn't easy because the brain gravitates toward whatever is familiar. If complaining is familiar, you will complain. If worrying is familiar, you will worry. If panicking is familiar, you will panic. Your brain is not loyal to your potential. It's loyal to your patterns. So you must create new patterns. You must teach your mind that the first response to adversity is not breakdown, but analysis. Not fear, but assessment. Not emotion, but strategy. When something hits you, a failure, a setback, a disappointment, the untrained mind says, everything is falling apart. The trained mind says, what's the next right move? That single question begins the mental shift. That one question pulls you out of reaction mode and puts you into solution mode. It takes you from victim to decision maker. Training your mind also requires you to break your addiction to drama. A lot of people don't realize this, but problems give them identity. Problems give them attention. Problems give them something to talk about. They don't want to admit it, but they are emotionally attached to their struggles because their struggles make them feel significant. But you can't become addicted to progress and addicted to problems at the same time. One has to go. When you commit to training your mind for solutions, you stop using problems as emotional entertainment. You stop glorifying how hard your life is, how unfair things are, how stressed you feel. You stop rehearsing your pain and start rehearsing your power. The more you practice stepping away from emotional storytelling and stepping into logical strategy, the stronger your mind becomes. A trained mind also understands the difference between what you can control and what you cannot. People who obsess over problems are usually stuck trying to control the uncontrollable. They waste energy on what happened instead of what they can do now. They focus on other people's actions instead of their own response. They replay the past instead of redesigning the future. Solution-focused thinking means redirecting your attention to the one place where you have influence, your decisions, your actions, your effort, your response. When you train your mind to stay in that lane, you stop feeling powerless because you're no longer wasting energy on battles you cannot win. You begin to build confidence because you're putting your energy where it actually matters. You begin to move with intention instead of frustration. Another part of mental training is learning how to detach from emotions long enough to see the bigger picture. Emotions are not the enemy, but they can cloud your judgment. When your emotions take, problems feel bigger than they really are. A minor setback becomes a disaster. A temporary obstacle becomes a permanent identity. A misunderstanding becomes a crisis. You can't solve anything from that state of mind. Training your mind means learning how to breathe, step back, and look at the situation with clarity instead of panic. It means learning how to pause instead of explode. It means learning how to evaluate instead of catastrophize. And the more you practice this emotional discipline, the more naturally it becomes your default response. Consistency is everything. You don't become solution focused in a day. You become solution focused by practicing the shift every time life throws something at you. Big things, small things, unexpected things, inconvenient things, annoying things, painful things. Every challenge becomes a mental gym. Every obstacle becomes a chance to rehearse a new thought pattern. Every frustration becomes a training session. Repetition rewires the brain. And the more you choose solutions over problems, the more your mind begins to do it automatically. One day you wake up and realize that you don't panic the way you used to. You don't complain the way you used to. You don't freeze the way you used to. You don't crumble under pressure the way you used to. Your mind has evolved because you trained it to evolve. Eventually, that training turns into identity. You become someone who is calm under pressure, someone who thinks clearly when others break, someone who doesn't get overwhelmed by unexpected situations, someone who trusts themselves to find answers. People begin to ask how you stay so collected, how you always know what to do next, how you keep moving forward despite the obstacles. But they don't understand. It's not luck. It's not genetics. It's not personality. It's training. It's discipline. It's intention. You built that men. Set brick by brick, thought by thought, challenge by challenge. And once your mind is trained to think in solutions, life feels different. Problems don't disappear, but their power over you does. Fear doesn't vanish, but your response becomes stronger than your fear. Challenges don't stop coming, but you start meeting them with confidence instead of chaos. That's what training your mind really does. It upgrades your entire existence. It turns you from someone who feels attacked by life into someone who masters life. Someone who doesn't run from the fire, but walks through it with strategy, clarity, and direction. And when you reach that level, you stop being owned by your circumstances. You become the one in control. Most people live their lives reacting to what happens instead of intentionally creating what happens next. They wait for problems to appear. And when they do, they get consumed by them. They get angry, frustrated, overwhelmed, and stuck because they never built the mental discipline to turn obstacles into opportunities. Focusing on solutions instead of problems isn't about pretending challenges don't exist. It's about strengthening your mindset so you can rise above them instead of sinking beneath them. To build a solution-driven identity, you must develop the ability to respond with clarity, courage, and purpose in moments when most people collapse. This type of leadership begins inside you, long before the world ever sees it. It's a mindset that says, no matter what happens, I will not break, I will not fold, I will not retreat, I will figure it out. The third keynote is about building that relentless identity, a version of you that doesn't get shaken by difficulty, but sharpened by it. This is where you stop being someone who takes life personally and become someone who takes life strategically. You begin to understand that challenges are not ate, CKs. They are information. They are feedback. They are signals telling you where you need to grow, what you need to strengthen, what you need to fix, what you need to release. When you focus on solutions, you stop interpreting obstacles as signs of failure and start interpreting them as clues. You become a detective of your own life instead of a victim of your own circumstances. Every setback becomes a message. Here is where you must evolve. Developing this mentality requires emotional maturity because most people want solutions but don't want the discomfort that produces them. They want progress without pressure. They want growth without resistance. They want clarity without the conflict that forces clarity. But the truth is, the version of you destined for greatness doesn't appear in calm waters. It appears in storms. It appears in confusion, in challenge, in uncertainty, in moments when you could easily break but choose not to. That's where your identity forms. That's where your strength is carved. That's where your resilience is built. The person you become in pressure is the person you will rely on for the rest of your life. When you choose to think in solutions, you teach your mind to stop panicking and start leading. You create a psychological shift from helplessness to power. A solution-driven identity also demands radical responsibility. You stop blaming people. You stop blaming luck. You stop blaming circumstance. You stop using excuses as cushions, and instead you use accountability as a weapon, because as long as you can blame something else, you will never grow the strength to overcome it. You cannot build a powerful life with a powerless mindset. When you take responsibility for your choices, your patterns, your responses, your habits, your future, You unlock something inside that most people never touch. You discover that solutions exist the moment you decide to stop outsourcing your power. You begin to see that every single successful transformation in history started with one sentence: "It's on me." And when you carry that identity, you stop being paralyzed by problems because you no longer expect life to be easy. You expect life to challenge you. You expect adversity to test you. You expect setbacks to appear, and instead of being blindsided, you are prepared. Problems don't shock. Why? Oh, they activate you. They wake up the strongest part of you. They trigger your creativity, your discipline, your focus, your leadership. You start moving differently, thinking differently, reacting differently. You become someone who studies the situation instead of complaining about it. Someone who breaks down the obstacle instead of emotionally reacting. Someone who keeps moving when others freeze. That is the ultimate power of a solution-based identity. You stay functional, forward-moving, and strategic even under pressure. Another part of building this identity is refusing to be defined by temporary circumstances. Problems try to convince you that the moment you're living in is the truth of your life. They tell you that failure is final, that struggle is permanent, that weakness is identity. But when you focus on solutions, you reject those lies. You remind yourself that this moment is not your destiny. It's your assignment. It's something you must navigate, not something you must become. You don't attach your self-worth to your situation. You don't attach your identity to your mistakes. You don't attach your future to your fear. You learn to stand inside difficulty without letting it define you. That's what champions do. That's what leaders do. That's what solution-focused individuals do. This identity also demands that you become adaptable, mentally flexible enough to shift direction without losing momentum. A problem might force you to change your plan, but it never makes you abandon your mission. You learn to pivot, adjust, and improvise with confidence. Adaptability is one of the highest forms of intelligence. When you focus on problems, you become rigid, stuck, and emotionally reactive. When you focus on solutions, you become fluid, strategic, creative, and calm. You accept that life won't always obey your expectations, but you will always maintain control of your decisions. That is what separates the strong from the average. And perhaps the most powerful part of building a solution-driven identity is understanding that your mindset influences the world around you. People follow clarity. People follow stability. People follow those who can stand tall when everything else is collapsing. When your identity is built on solutions, you become an anchor for others, your family, your team, your community. You become someone others trust because you don't unravel under pressure. You become the person who brings direction to chaos, confidence to fear, and action to stagnation. That kind of presence transforms environments. It elevates everyone around you. In the end, building a solution-driven identity is about becoming the person your problems fear. Someone who doesn't crumble, someone who doesn't complain, someone who doesn't run from difficulty, but walks into it with strategy, intention, and mental strength. You don't wait for life to get easier, you get stronger. You don't hope the storm passes. You learn how to navigate through it. And when you live with this mindset, you don't just survive challenges, you dominate them. The fourth keynote is about mastering your emotional state so you can operate with clarity instead of chaos, intention instead of impulse, and strategy instead of fear. This is the part most people skip, yet it's the foundation of every solution you will ever create. When people say they can't think straight, it's not because they don't know what to do. It's because their emotions are louder than their logic. When you're overwhelmed, angry, stressed, embarrassed, confused, or afraid, your mind becomes foggy. You stop processing options and start reacting to feelings. You stop calculating and start catastrophizing. You stop looking ahead and start drowning in the moment. This keynote teaches you how to break that cycle. Because no matter how strong, intelligent, or capable you are, you cannot lead your life if your emotions are the ones leading you. To build a mindset that focuses on solutions, you must learn how to regulate your emotional responses. That doesn't mean suppressing them or pretending they don't exist. Emotions are information. They tell you something is wrong, or something needs your attention, or something requires your adjustment. But when emotions control your actions, they become dangerous. Emotional reactions create impulsive decisions, quitting too fast, speaking without thinking, lashing out, shutting down, or running away from situations that needed patience, not panic. If you want to solve problems effectively, you must first calm the inner storm. You must learn how to pause before reacting, breathe before spiraling, think before speaking, and analyze before assuming. The power is in the pause. The ability to step back from your feelings long enough to see the situation clearly. This keynote also teaches you that your emotions are shaped by the narrative you tell yourself. If you look at a problem and call it impossible, your emotions will match that story. You'll feel overwhelmed, defeated, or hopeless. But if you look at that same problem and say, this is just a puzzle I haven't solved yet, your entire emotional response shifts. Your physiology changes. Your energy rises. Your confidence grows. People underestimate how much language controls their mindset. Whether you see life as an attack or an assignment determines whether you crumble or rise. The story you tell yourself about your struggle becomes the frame through which you view every decision you make. To manage your emotions, you must upgrade your story from victim to strategist, from overwhelmed to prepared, from stuck to solution focused. Another element of this keynote is learning how to separate fact from feeling. Your feelings are valid, but they are not always accurate. You might feel like you're failing when you're actually learning. You might feel like you're being attacked when someone is simply giving you feedback. You might feel like you've hit a dead end when really you're facing a detour. Emotion magnifies problems, making them look bigger, scarier, or more permanent than they really are. But once you separate what's real from what's emotional, the path becomes clearer. You begin to recognize that many of your obstacles were never as solid as they seemed. It was your fear that made them look immovable. You gain the ability to step outside your own narrative, observe the problem objectively, and respond with strategy instead of sensitivity. This keynote also emphasizes the importance of building emotional endurance. Most people don't solve problems because the discomfort of facing them becomes too heavy. They escape through distraction, denial, procrastination, or anger. But every time you avoid an uncomfortable emotion, you strengthen the problem and weaken yourself. Emotional endurance means allowing yourself to feel frustration, disappointment, fear, or uncertainty without shutting down. It means sitting with discomfort until you understand what it's teaching you. It means acknowledging your emotions but refusing to let them dictate your direction. When you build this endurance, you become resilient. You're not easily shaken. You're not easily manipulated by your own mind. You develop a calmness under pressure that is rare and powerful. And tied to emotional endurance is the development of emotional discipline, the ability to choose your response even when your emotions are screaming for you to react. This is what separates average minds from strong minds. Anyone can stay calm when life is easy. Anyone can think clearly when everything is going right. But emotional discipline is proven in the moments when you could fall apart, and you don't. When you could explode, but you hold yourself steady. When you could shut down, but you stay present. When you could run, but you stay rooted. This level of self-control builds confidence because you start to trust yourself. You trust your decisions. You trust your responses. You trust your ability to navigate chaos without becoming chaos. Another part of this keynote is learning how to shift your emotional state on command. Most people let their emotions decide the quality of their day. If they wake up tired, the day is ruined. If someone disrespects them, they carry that energy for hours. If they make one mistake, they spiral. But you cannot build a solution-focused life with a reactive emotional engine. You must train yourself to reset physically, mentally, emotionally. Sometimes that reset is taking a deep breath. Sometimes it's stepping outside. Sometimes it's pausing a conversation. Sometimes it's reminding yourself nothing is as permanent as it feels right now. The ability to shift your emotional state gives you power over your mind instead of letting your mind have power over you. When you can shift your emotional state, you can shift your decisions. And when you can shift your decisions, you can shift your entire life. The fourth keynote also highlights the importance of emotional awareness, understanding the patterns that trigger your reactions. Everyone has emotional habits: panic, anger, defensiveness, avoidance, overthinking. If you don't become aware of them, they will sabotage you, especially during problems when clarity is most needed. Emotional awareness helps you spot the moment your mind begins to spiral so you can catch it early. It helps you understand why certain challenges bother you more than others. It helps you manage your reactions instead of being confused by them. The more aware you become, the more control you gain. Awareness is the doorway to regulation, and regulation is the doorway to solutions. Finally, this keynote teaches you that emotional mastery is not about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally intelligent. It's about using your emotions as tools, not cages. It's about recognizing that your feelings don't have to be your future. And it's about understanding that the strongest version of you is not the one who avoids emotion, but the one who commands it. When you develop emotional mastery, you become unshakable. You become someone who can think clearly under pressure, someone who can respond intentionally in chaos, someone who can stay focused in uncertainty, someone who can keep moving when others freeze. This is what it means to build a solution-driven mindset. This is what it means to step into the highest version of yourself. This is what it means to take full control of your life. In the end, everything you want, everything you dream about, everything you fight for comes down to one simple truth. Life is not waiting on your problems to disappear. It's waiting on you to rise above them. Problems will always exist. Challenges will always show up. Obstacles will always appear at the worst possible time. But the people who win, the people who grow, the people who elevate to a level that others can't even imagine, are the ones who refuse to let their problems define their future. They focus their energy where it matters, not on excuses, not on blame, not on fear, but on solutions. Because solutions are what move your life forward. Solutions are what transform pain into progress. Solutions are what take you from where you are to where you're destined to be. Right now, you have a choice. You can keep feeding the problems, replaying the mistakes, replaying the disappointments, replaying the fear, replaying the pressure. Or you can stand up and say, I'm done living like this. I'm done letting life control me. I'm done letting stress dictate my decisions. I'm done watching problems pile up while I do nothing. You can choose to make this the moment where everything shifts. Not someday, not later, not when you feel ready, now. Because the truth is, nobody ever feels ready. You become ready when you start acting like the person you want to become. You become strong when you stop collapsing under the weight of your emotions and start using them as fuel. You become powerful when you stop reacting and start responding with intention. And I want you to understand something. Deep, your problems are not a punishment. They are preparation. Every challenge you face is sharpening you. Every setback is training you. Every disappointment is teaching you. Life isn't trying to break you, it's trying to build you. But it can't build someone who keeps quitting. It can't build someone who keeps complaining. It can't build someone who keeps running from the very battles that were designed to toughen their spirit. You want a different life? Then you must become a different version of yourself. And that version is born when you stop drowning in what's wrong and start seeking what's possible. This is your wake-up call. This is your turning point. This is the moment where you decide that no matter how overwhelming things look right now, you will not fold. You will not panic. You will not let pressure paralyze you. You will think. You will breathe. You will strategize. You will take one step, then another, until you build momentum so strong that nothing can stop you. You will lead yourself with clarity, discipline, and intention. Because at the end of the day, winners are not the people who never face problems. They're the people who refuse to be controlled by them. They take ownership. They take action. They take responsibility for their future. And that's exactly what you're going to do. From this moment on, your mind is not a battlefield for problems. It's a laboratory for solutions. And once you start living like that, there is nothing absolutely nothing that can hold you back.